In this video, I'm going to highlight 6 pastors that I think every other pastor should look at and learn from when it comes to social media and maximizing social media to grow your church. Okay, so we're going to talk about something that is a bit of a tension for other pastors, and it's social media and having a personal presence on social media. And I think a lot of pastors have a healthy tension with this of, look, it's not about me, it's about God, and it's about leading people to Jesus and growing our church, not my audience, not my kingdom. And I think that's healthy and I think that's fair. But the reality of social media is that people follow people more naturally than they follow organizations. And this is before social media that people connected and they wanted to know their pastor that they were going to follow and they were going to learn from and grow spiritually from. And when it comes to social media, people want the same thing. They want to connect with their pastor. They want to learn from their pastor. They want to find a pastor that is a leader in the kind of church that they want to be a part of. And so when it comes to having a healthy social media presence, I think there's a benefit of investing in it, of growing it and developing it. But I think there's also an important tension to manage of why are you doing this? Are you doing this for ego's sake? Are you doing this because you want to grow your kingdom? And obviously that's not a good reason to do it. And there are, plenty of pastors, I'm sure, that do that. But the reality is it's a tension I think that we have to navigate and manage. And I think that as we lean into it in a healthy way, I think there are some pastors we can learn from and the strategies that they've used that we can maximize with our own social media presence when it comes to pastoral ministry and social media. Okay, with that said, I want to talk about the first pastor that I want to highlight, and probably the first one that comes to mind for most pastors when it comes to social media, and that's Pastor Stephen Furtick at Elevation Church. Pastor Stephen was one of the first people to really lean in heavily to social media. I think people have seen his growth and expansion of Elevation, but in many ways on the back of the growth and expansion of Stephen Furtick's social media presence. And that expansion came from a significant investment in content development and distribution on Facebook and Instagram, on TikTok and various platforms and YouTube. And so when it comes to basically how to manage content and maximize your sermon for social media, I think that's where Pastor Stephen has really set the bar. Is they've taken that sermon content, and I say that it's like squeezing the orange. They squeeze everything out of it so that it's not just on YouTube and it's not just a podcast, but it's also 10 clips on Instagram. It's also 5 clips on TikTok. It's also 4 graphics, on Facebook. And so they're getting the most out of that sermon content and helping maximize that reach of that content. So Pastor Stephen, thanks for leading the way when it comes to maximizing social media and really maximizing how we use our sermon video content for social media. The next pastor that I want to highlight when it comes to their personal social media presence is Pastor Rich Viotis. Pastor Rich has a very different presence than Pastor Stephen Furtick, who I just mentioned, in that his is not as flashy. There's not as much video. It's really a lot of screenshotted tweets. Even though Instagram is the primary platform he's getting the most engagement on, he's using a lot of screenshotted tweets for that content. And what Pastor Rich is doing that is so effective from my perspective is he's really prioritizing the art of the written word. And the written word, in the Bible is the written word, and books are written word. The way words are crafted to inspire us, to really speak to us. And we've seen this through the years in so many ways, is that having a really thoughtful, short, concise statement can really speak to us. And Pastor Rich has done that in really concise ways, pulling clips from his books, pulling clips or quotes, I guess, from his sermons, scripture passages with captions alongside of it. And Pastor Rich has just done a great job of being consistent as well. And so he's showing up on social media very consistently. And you can expect that he's not going to promote a lot of his books. He's not going to promote a lot of his stuff. He's going to basically just give you value through inspirational content. And honestly, I think the real secret sauce is that it's very shareable content. When you see that, you're like, man, I want to share that with my followers. I want to share that into my story. And so Pastor Rich has created great micro ministry content that's in a visual or text-based format that is very shareable and has had great virality. So Pastor Rich, you're doing a great job. Thank you for leading the way in the ways that you have and to manage the tension that you have with having a personal social media presence, but a focus on your local congregation. The next pastor I want to highlight is Bianca OV. If you haven't seen Bianca on social media, she does a great job on social media, and she pastors a church, and she also speaks and writes books and has, lots of different things going on in her life. And it really shouldn't be surprising if you know a bit of her background. And I don't know a whole lot. I've just watched her online. I've never met Pastor Bianca, but her sister is a well-known social media personality, social media influencer, and helps a lot of other people with their social media presence. So I think probably learning a lot of the strategies from her sister and applying that to her social media presence is really working. And I think one of the things that you'll find, Pastor Bianca, is you get, like Pastor Furtick, a lot of great teaching clips, but you also get an insight into her personal life and can follow her journey and her travels and the different relationships in her life. And so it's not all of the same thing. It's kind of a mix of different content where you feel both personally connected with her and spiritually inspired from her. And so Pastor Bianca, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much for leading the way in the ways that you are with social media and your presence online. The next pastor that I want to highlight when it comes to their personal social media presence is Pastor Bill Cornelius, Church Unlimited in Corpus Christi, Texas, the San Antonio location as well. I had the privilege of getting to know Pastor Bill several years ago, and it's been fun to watch their church grow, but also watch Pastor Bill almost be a late adopter to having a personal brand on social media, but seeing him really rocket ship the last couple of years as he has leaned into a very specific, unique content type that's more in the business world than I've seen it in the church world. And it's making basically short form vertical videos direct to camera and very intentional and basically micro sermons. And what he has done is really speak to even tangible things of, here's a parenting tip, here's a marriage tip, here's a finance tip, here's this from a biblical perspective. And he's doing it in 60 seconds or less. And it's going viral on TikTok, and it's going viral on Instagram. And it's not, flashy, it's not multi-camera, it's direct to camera, but it is professionally captured and intentionally done. But it's creating a significant amount of consistent, quality, meaningful content and posting it in a very natural way as social media has moved to prioritizing Reels and TikToks and YouTube Shorts. He's able to use that one piece of content on the 4 primary social media platforms with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts now. And so he's really maximizing that one type of content and getting maximum reach. And it surprises me that more pastors aren't doing this yet, but Pastor Bill, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much for leading the way in the ways that you are. And I can't wait to see what you continue to do as you lean into these social media trends. The next pastor that I want to highlight when it comes to their personal social media presence is Pastor Levi Lusco. I've gotten to know Pastor Levi a bit over the last year, and it's been so fun to watch. But honestly, as I've gotten to know him in person, in real life, a little bit, I feel like I've already known him for the past 5 years or so, or however long I followed Pastor Levi, because he does a great job, I believe, of both sharing, like a lot of the other pastors, their sermon clips. And for him, he's got a podcast with his wife, and you'll see clips of that. But he also shares a lot of his personal life, and he uses his phone actively within Instagram stories and his other content types where you feel like you know Levi both personally and spiritually. And so a lot like Bianca OV, you'll see a lot of that personal connection, family connection. And I feel like even as he has that pastoral presence online, he's able to make that connection with his congregation, with his community, with his global congregation, I guess, in many ways that have begun to follow him, and then also use his other content to funnel them into the life of their church. And so, Pastor Levi, you are crushing social media. You've been crushing social media for many years. You've been also so consistent with social media, and I think it's a great model for other pastors to follow. So, Pastor Levi, keep it up. Thank you so much for leading the way in such a tremendous way with social media, and I can't wait to see what God does from here. Now, the last pastor I want to highlight is my friend, Pastor Mike Todd. Pastor Mike has been everywhere on social media, and he now has over 2 million followers on Instagram. Transformation Church has, I think, about to surpass 2 million subscribers on YouTube. The church has exploded online in many ways because of how Pastor Mike has leaned into social media. And that is a total mix, but I think Pastor Mike, his secret sauce is he's an entertainer by trade. And before he was a pastor, he was a drummer. He was originally the sound man at Transformation Church before becoming the pastor. And so he has that background in entertainment, and so he knows how to engage a camera, whether that's on stage or whether that's off stage or whether that's on his phone. He has a creative energy and an idea, just a way to pump out lots of content, whether he's doing it himself or he has a team invested in building his content. And Pastor Mike has built a significant team, but he didn't start with a team. Pastor Michael started with his phone. He leaned into the tools that he had, and he has seen through his consistent of showing up and being present and being engaged and maximizing the trends that are on social media, being very creative in that content development. He has seen this explosion that has led to an explosion of Transformation Church and the growth of the church and the growth of the impact that they're having both locally in Tulsa, both nationally in the US and globally beyond. And so it has really in many ways formed out of how Pastor Michael has used social media. Now, all of these pastors highlighted, the reality is you might look at all of them and say, that's not really like me and that's not really like me. And the reality is what I want to encourage you with is why you shouldn't be Pastor Bill Cornelius or Mike Todd or Stephen Furtick or Rich Viotis or Bianca OV. They're unique pastors and leaders in and of themselves, and they're called to a unique ministry area, but they're all leaning into social media and their personal presence on social media as a way to better pastor, better, more effectively way to reach people. And they've navigated the tensions, and sometimes they haven't done it perfectly. And sometimes they've made mistakes, but they have put themselves out there and allowed God to use that presence to reach people with the gospel. And so I want to encourage you that as you navigate this tension, don't navigate it with fear to where it just shuts you off or concern or even just a dislike of how somebody else used it. Figure out how it best fits you, how it best fits your church and your ministry, and navigate that tension. And I think find a healthy balance that works for you. But I think ignoring it means you're going to miss a significant opportunity. So it doesn't mean you need to go all in on social media, that you need to be posting even every day. But I think by posting not at all and not showing up personally on social media is kind of telling your community, your congregation, that you're just not going to show up where they are. And I think this is part of showing up in the community. Just like, remember when I was a youth pastor, I went to football games and basketball games, and I showed up where my youth were. And for me, that turned out to be AOL Instant Messenger. That turned out to be MySpace when they began to move online. And so today, these platforms are Instagram and they're TikTok. And I think it's valuable for us even to show up, even if it's just in the comments. Don't ignore the opportunity of being present on social media personally. And so it is a tension to manage, but I think it's an opportunity to pursue. And I think navigating that tension and leaning into the opportunity will lead to significant fruits for your church. So thank you so much for watching this video. If I can ever be of help to you, you can follow me and connect with me on social media at Neil Smith. I read all my DMs, so you can connect with me there. Or for our team at Amplify Social Media, we would love to help you, whether that's building your personal social media, your church's social media. We would love to help however we can. Don't hesitate to reach out to us at amplifysocial.media. We look forward to talking to you on the next video.